If the American public knew what Israel did to this American ship, they would be outraged. They would, our passionate attachment for Israel would not be passionate very long. We'd be done with them. First of all, I was 20 years old in 1967. I was a third-class petty officer in damage control, and we were ordered to leave Abidjan, Africa, about 2 o'clock in the morning to go who knew where. We didn't have a clue where we were going until we got to Rota, Spain, and we picked up 3 linguists, 3 Marine Russian linguists, and a civilian named Alan Blue. It was a one-night stay. We picked up supplies, and we headed for the Mediterranean. We got on station at approximately 6 o'clock in the morning. At approximately 6:05, Israeli aircraft were circling the ship. We knew they were Israeli aircraft because we could see the Star of David on them. We waved at the pilots waved back. We felt very comfortable. There was at least 12 overflights of the ship, from 0600 to approximately 11 or 11:30. Our intercept operators on the ship picked up information from the Israelis notifying their base in Haifa that this was an American ship, and they identified it as Liberty, AGTR-5, an American ship. And this was passed on and picked up by listening bases in Beirut, Lebanon, at the American Embassy. It was picked up in Vietnam, believe it or not. It was picked up in Greece. That the Israelis themselves identified us as American. They put us on their war table as an American ship. We were in international waters, 12.5 miles off the coast of the Sinai. At approximately 1 o'clock, we had a general quarters drill, which is a drill to test our skills for, at that time it was a chemical drill. We were in chemical suits, and it was hot, believe me. It was a hot day. And the sky was clear, the flag was flying, no obstructions. We knew had been identified, and the only word we had, would be the Arabs. We thought that would be the only people, but we knew our good friends, the Israelis, were there. If anything happened, we knew we were protected. Before we got into the area, by the way, the captain did ask for a destroyer escort because we were going into a war zone. But we were in international waters. They refused him. They told him that you're flying an American ensign. The Israelis know you're there. Don't worry about it. We secured from general quarters about 10 minutes to 2. I went up on the forward gun mount. The sound-powered phones weren't working, and I was the damage control officer of the forward repair party. So I went to the CIC where the guys to take care of that, and they sent a guy up there by the name of David Skolak to repair the sound-powered phones. Now we were in condition 3, readiness. This means we had 4 50 caliber machine guns on the ship, and they were all manned because of condition 3. We could see on the land black smoke and fires and bombs and things going off. And then at 2 o'clock, the attack started. It started with 3 French Mirage jets. They hit every single antenna on that ship, operating antenna. There were 40 of them. And now this ship was the most sophisticated ship in the world for telecommunications. They hit every antenna on the ship, and we couldn't get a word out to anybody for about 10 minutes. Terry Haldebardier jury-rigged an antenna that had been shut down. The tuner had been shut down. These guys were shooting at us with heat-seeking missiles. And they took out first all the antennas. They took out the captain's gig. They took out the whale boat. And they took out 99% of our life rafts. This attack lasted about as long as the attack on Pearl Harbor. There were over 820 rocket and cannon holes in the ship. There were approximately 5,000 50 caliber armor-piercing bullets in the ship. And they also fired napalm at us. They dropped napalm on the bridge of the ship. As we were trying to get the dead and the wounded off the decks, they would fire at us. The crew of 294, there was 172 wounded, 34 killed, and since then, probably 50 or 60 of those have passed from their wounds. About 15 minutes into the attack, we got a word out to the 6th Fleet. We were under attack by unknown jet aircraft. They had colored their planes and marked out the Star of David. There was no markings on these planes. We didn't know who was attacking us. And we called the USS Saratoga and the USS America. Captain Tully launched immediately ready aircraft. Now these were conventional aircraft. They weren't nuclear tipped. And they were on their way to help us. McNamara gets on the phone and says, send those planes back, bring them back, bring them back. Now, he said in the war room, we're not going to attack our ally Israel. Now, we didn't know who was attacking us because they were unmarked planes. How did they know who was attacking us? The USS America sent aircraft out of their planes, off their aircraft carrier. They were nuclear tipped. They were going to incinerate Egypt. McNamara again, he called those planes back. Admiral Geist said, I want to rearm and go to the Liberty's defense. They're still under attack. This is about probably 45 minutes into the attack. With the holes in the ship and the damage that was done, the experts said it had to be at least 12 to 18 aircraft that attacked us. About 50 minutes, 60 minutes into the attack, here comes 3 motor torpedo boats. And they got in a torpedo mode. There was like a torpedo boat here, one behind it and one behind it. They had 2 torpedoes on each boat, 6 total. They fired 5 torpedoes and one didn't go off. And 5 torpedoes came at us at one time. 2 went aft. I believe one went forward and the other one, I don't know where it went. But I do know where the last one went. It hit in the research bases below the waterline, instantly blowing to bits 25 American sailors. The impact of the torpedo was so great, it picked the ship completely up out of the water. And it just went back down. The ship was just like weeping. It was hurt so bad. We started listing and listing and listing, and I thought the ship was going to roll over. But it didn't. It started to stabilize. I was ordered to the bridge to help put out fires, and we didn't have any water pressure because they put holes in most of our fire hoses. Besides that, our pumps weren't working properly, so we couldn't pump as much water as we needed. We were basically just dead in the water. Got to the bridge, had two CO2 bottles, and trying to put out the napalm, and it was impossible. You couldn't put that stuff out. It's just jelly didn't keep on burning. And I'll never forget, I looked over at the helmsman. He was a very good friend of mine. His name was Francis Brown. I met him when I first got aboard the ship in 1965. We were good buddies. We used to play pool together and everything like that. And he was one of the most well-liked men aboard the ship. And I looked at him as I was getting ready to go down the passageway and get another CO2 bottle. I looked directly in his eyes, and he looked at me and didn't say a word, and he didn't say a word. I went back down, got what CO2 bottles I could. I came back up, and I got on the bridge, the deck, and there was blood all over, and I flew up, slipped, and fell on my back. And it was Francis Brown's blood. A 50 caliber bullet came and blew off the back of his head. The captain at that time had been injured. There were still dead and wounded on the main deck and on the second level. The 50-gallon cans of gasoline we had on the ship, they were on fire, they were burning. And the torpedo boats would circle the ship and shoot at our firefighters and stretcher bearers. They wanted us all dead. They wanted us all murdered. Our government abandoned us when we needed them the most 40 years ago, and they abandoned us. They're still abandoning us to this day. This government was stabbed in the back by the government of Israel, and our government helped put a knife in their own back. And whenever Israel wants something, all they got to do is just twist that knife a little bit more, and they get what they want. I remember talking to Admiral Moore. He was one of our greatest supporters on this issue. He told me, Phil, he says, during the Yom Kippur War, the ambassador of Israel came to me. He was the Joint Chiefs of Staff then. He says, Phil, he says, I need this from you, and I need this from you, and I need this from you. He says, well, I can't give you all that. He says, we need it for other things, for Vietnam or whatever. And he says, don't you worry about the Congress. You just get what I want. And he was ordered the next day to give the Israelis anything they wanted, taking away from our fighting men. And 2 days after that, or the next morning, the USS America and the USS Davis and the USS Massey got to us, 18 hours after the attack. So they left us out there. They didn't even send a Piper Cub to see how we were doing. I mean, they could have sent at least one airplane to give us direction. Our compasses were out. We had nothing. We were sailing by the stars. But our country left us there. They made the decision, hopefully, they thought we were going to break up in the middle of the night and all of us die. But we thought the Israelis were going to come back and get us. But they didn't, because the word was out. We knew who attacked us. About 15 minutes after the torpedo boats left, they sent 2 helicopters with commandos in them, ready to board our ship to finish us off. They circled the ship. One got close to the Vauxhall, and I was looking right in the eyeball. And he was looking at me, and I went, just like that. And he replied with the same finger. But they did not board our ship. Like I say, the next day the Massey came by, the Davis came by. They got the dead and the wounded off, and the most seriously wounded. So they said, go to Malta, which was a 7-day trip from where we were to Malta, and they could have sent us to Crete, but it was only 3 days. Why they did that, I don't know. But the USS Papago was behind us, a fleet tug, and they were picking up papers, pieces of bodies. There were 6 bodies that floated out they never did find. And there's a mass grave in Arlington honoring their sacrifice. I was ordered by an Admiral Kidd when he came aboard our ship. I told him what he did. He got 4 or 5 of us in a group. He took off his stars. This was in sick bay at the time. I remember he threw them on the table. It was a stainless steel table, and it rang. And he says, "You guys talk to me just like, I'm a regular sailor. Tell us what happened, what you saw. Did you see any markings?" So on and so forth. We told him exactly what we saw. He put his stars back on. He said, "Now I'm my admiral again." And I'm telling you, if you ever breathe a word of this to your parents, to the press, to your shipmates, to anybody, I'll make sure you either go to prison or worse. And everybody else knew what worse meant. And then we were briefed by the CIA and the National Security Agency never to say a word about it. And I did it for 20 years. I was in a hole. I was in a depression you couldn't believe. And then a book came out called Assault on the Liberty, written by James Ennis. Read the book, understood that other people besides myself, I thought I was the only one that felt that way. But I wasn't. But the Israeli government and our government, they might as well have fired the bullets at all of you sitting right here, because when they attack one American, they attack us all. I have 2 sons. Bryce is my oldest son. He's in the United States Army Ranger Special Forces. My other son, Shane, he's in the United States Navy SEALs. Why they joined the military, I don't know, after what I told them. I said, "Listen, the only people you're going to war for is Israel. And that's who you're going to be fighting for. And that's who you're going to be dying for." But they're grown men. They want to do what they're going to do. I couldn't talk them out of it. But anyway, that's the way I feel. But the Liberty has made a footprint. They made a footprint on the Middle East 40 years ago, and that footprint is not erased yet. If the American public knew what Israel did to this American ship, they would be outraged. They would. Our passionate attachment for Israel would not be passionate very long. We'd be done with them. The American public wouldn't stand for it. And the conspiracy, it goes on and on after each president, each Congress. They all know the truth. We get secret documents. They don't mean anything. They're all blacked out. I get the same documents every year. I'm on their list. They send me the same documents. They might add one word, an I or an A, but the rest of it's all blacked out. So I don't know how to get the word out other than talking to people like you, which I do quite often. It's almost useless to write your Congress, but if you do, it does let them know you're still there. The Liberty story will be repeated. I think it was repeated when the barracks were blown up in Beirut, and I think it was done by our friends with skull caps too. I think they killed them all to get us out of there. That's my own personal opinion. I have nothing to back it up with, but that's just what I believe. The other thing I wanted to get across was that the cover-up is probably what is going to break the back of Israel more than the attack, because the cover-up consists of the United States and Israel in conjunction as a conspiracy, and that's the only way we're going to take our country back, is to get the truth out. And I think the attack on our ship, I personally believe that God saved us, because nobody else was there to help us. He held that ship up, and it was by all means supposed to sink. Every engineer, everybody we talked to said there's no way that ship should have made it, because it was broken all the way down to the keel. The keel was completely broken. and we got it into Malta, stayed there a month. They made the ship look like brand new, patched all the holes up, and we brought it back to the States. There was myself and about 15 other guys, skeleton crew, brought the ship back to Little Creek, Virginia. I stayed aboard the Liberty until December the 12th, 1967. I was discharged. Stayed out of the Navy for about a year. I went back in for 2 more years, and I thought maybe that would change my attitude, but I couldn't take it anymore, so I got out. But that's basically it. It's a true story. They got by with cold-blooded murder, and nobody should get by with murder, not even Israel. And that's just the way it is. So if you have any questions, I'd like to answer a few questions. If not, well, they wanted to sink us fast and blame it on Egypt. And we wouldn't be fighting in Iraq right now if we had sunk. Because Israel and the United States would have owned all the Middle East. The Russians wouldn't have gone against us on that one. I mean, the Russians were there and told us, you know, don't get involved in this. But you sink an American ship, the Egyptians sink an American ship, what are you going to do?
What was the role of Admiral McCain?
I'm sorry?
What was the role of Admiral McCain?
Very good question. Admiral McCain. I'm sorry? Oh, okay. Yes. What was the role of Admiral McCain? Well, he was our boss. He was the Europe commander of the 6th Fleet, and he ordered Admiral Kidd to have this investigation, board of inquiry, done within 1 week. And that was impossible. This investigation should have taken at least a year. One of the lead investigators on it, Ward Boston, later came out and said, yeah, it's a sham. We were ordered to lie. It's a cover-up. Everybody knows it's a cover-up. Admiral McCain, Senator McCain's son or dad, ordered him to cover it up. And it's been covered up to this day. And I've written to McCain before, and he doesn't want to hear about it for sure. But that was his role as a part of the cover-up. But Ward Boston and Admiral Storing, he was a Judge Advocate General. He supports us. He says, yeah, it was a cover-up. And we've got tons and tons of people that support us, but it doesn't do any good. I was in the State Department giving a speech, or ready to give a speech, and the moderator at that time cut me off. I was there for about 2 hours, and I was at the microphone, and he said the conference is over. Click, and that was it. And that's when they had a State Department that said it was a mistaken identity. We've looked at this, and we've looked at this, and we've looked at this. At that time, I was the president of the association, and that's why I was there. But I've tried everything I know on God's green earth to get this story out, and so have the other survivors. And it's ruined many lives. It's destroyed a lot of lives, parents, brothers, aunts, uncles. It's a terrible situation. But if they get by it once, they'll get by with it again.
Okay. In the 1967 war, Egyptian prisoners were being executed by the Israelis, and that's a war crime, of course, for which they could be prosecuted under the Geneva Conventions. Theoretically, at least, the Liberty had the ability to detect that with their electronic surveillance equipment. Did you ever find out if that was true, and was it ever, reported before the attack? Was this the real reason why Admiral Kidd told you not to say a word about any of this stuff? Whatever came of that?
There was no explanation ever made. Basically, they just told us to shut up, and but we knew what was up. you know, it took me a few years to figure it out, but they didn't want us talking about it, and that's just basically it. Like I say, I didn't talk about it for 20 years. I was afraid to, and but it's just been a part of my life that I don't think that anybody should have to go through. No, none of your sons or brothers or daughters or anybody. I hope that they never have to go through anything like that. I was proud of my service in the Navy, and I still am. I'm not really proud of my country for what they did to us, though.
Yeah, well, we're proud of you, Bill.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Yes.
There was a dramatization of the attack on the USS Liberty on National Public Radio in the mid-1970s. It was just guns shooting, guys talking. It was in the 1970s, and it was National Public Radio, and I believe it was out of Wisconsin, but I heard it in Oakland, California. I couldn't believe it that it was there.
Right, absolutely. And there's some good films out too, Dead in the Water and Loss of Liberty.
Okay, back in July when you had your reunion in D.C., could you touch on the amount of support that the congressmen and senators gave you?
The congressmen and senators never have given us any support. We were supposed to have a congressman there, but at the last minute he had something else he had to do. And his name escapes me right now, but he's running for president.
What about Cynthia McKinney? Didn't she stick up for you?
I'm sorry?
Cynthia McKinney, did she?
Cynthia McCain, did she do anything?
I'm sorry?
Cynthia McCain, Cynthia.
Oh, yeah. She's Cynthia McKinney. She's a nice gal. I've talked to her several times. And she supported us, but she got voted out of office for supporting us, and then she got back into office, then she got voted out again. And a lot of Israeli money went into the other side to defeat her. But she's a real southern nice lady, and I've talked to her several times.
Paul Finley.
Pardon me?
Paul Finley.
Oh, yeah, Paul Finley. He's a good friend of mine.
Did you know that on YouTube.com, on a website called Stranger Than Fiction, which suggests Israeli involvement in 9/11, also has maybe a half-hour video about the attack on the Liberty. And when I saw it, in addition to like all these other hours of videos, I couldn't believe that this was true until I'm meeting you right now. Otherwise, I would have thought that was fake. You know, someone just, put it up. But it is on YouTube. It's called The Attack on the Liberty, Stranger Than Fiction. You'll see other videos. So
Right.
I'm very happy to meet you to know that the truth is coming out.
Yeah, it is hard to believe. I know for a lot of people to believe it, but it is true. And you said you saw it on YouTube? Yeah, I've seen the same one.
You mentioned Robert McNamara. Is there any truth to Lyndon Johnson saying, I want that ship to go to the bottom?
McNamara and Johnson, in fact, Johnson said he didn't care if the whole ship sank and he lost all the sailors aboard. He was not going to embarrass his ally Israel. McNamara is 91 right now, and he has no recollection of the USS Liberty. He says he can't remember what happened that day. But there's recordings of him on tape ordering the jets back. And I might add that several of the pilots that went off of the Saratoga, when they got out of their airplanes, they were so angry they took off their flight helmets and threw them on the deck, and one of them blew off the side and broke in half. Yes. Operation Sinai, and yeah, Frontlet 615. That was I understand a backup plan that was hatched, I believe by Russia or somebody in that area. It was a backup plan by the USS Amberjack. There was a sub there, by the way, too, an American sub that filmed it, that filmed the attack. The USS Amberjack, and they have that film, but nobody can get it.